There are two kinds of people in this world, those who work for a living and those who build a life. One chases paychecks, the other chases purpose. One wakes up to survive, the other wakes up to create. The poor ask, how can I earn more? The rich ask, how can I multiply more? You see, the real question isn't how much you make, it's how much you keep, how much you grow, and how much control you have over your time. Because until your money works harder than you do, you'll always be working for the wrong master. Most people spend their entire lives chasing security, and in doing so, they trade away their freedom. They call it a job, a paycheck, stability. But let me tell you, what most people call security is really the slowest form of poverty. Because when you work only for money, you sell your potential for survival. You don't own your time, you rent it. And that's the first step toward losing your wealth, your creativity, and your life's purpose. The rich don't chase paychecks, they build systems, they build value, and they build freedom. Let me tell you something about money that most people never understand. You're not paid for time, you're paid for value. That's one of life's great economic secrets. You can take two people working the same number of hours in the same building for the same company. One earns $10 an hour and the other earns $1,000. What's the difference? It's not time. It's not luck, it's value. The marketplace doesn't pay for effort, it pays for results. It doesn't reward hard work alone, it rewards what that work produces. And that's the first great shift from working for money to working for value. See, most people spend their entire lives trying to earn more by working more. They take extra shifts, they work overtime, they grind themselves into exhaustion, and yet their income barely moves. Why? Because they're trading hours, not value. They haven't increased their worth to the marketplace. The key is not to do more, it's to become more. If you want more, you've got to bring more. More skill, more insight, more discipline, more creativity. The moment you become more valuable, the marketplace finds you. When I was younger, I used to think if I worked hard enough, I'd get rich. But I learned that the world doesn't pay you for sweat, it pays you for service. I remember when I first worked for a man who made millions while I struggled to make a few hundred. I couldn't understand it. I thought, this isn't fair, we both work hard. But he said something I never forgot. Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. That line changed my life. He was right. The secret was never in the hours, it was in the value. If you increase your value, your income must increase. It has no choice. That's how the world works. The marketplace is always fair. It pays you exactly what you're worth. If you want to earn more, don't ask for a raise. Raise yourself. Read more, think more, practice more, and refine your craft until people can't ignore you. A single new skill can multiply your income. A single good idea, acted upon, can change your life. Start today by asking, how can I become twice as valuable in the next 12 months? Maybe it's mastering communication. Maybe it's learning to lead. Maybe it's understanding how money really works. Whatever it is, focus there. Track your progress, measure your impact, and never stop growing. Remember, money is just a mirror. It reflects your contribution. So, don't chase the paycheck. Chase improvement. Don't work for money. Work for value. Because when you become the kind of person who can't help but create value wherever you go, money will follow you like a shadow that never leaves your side. The greatest illusion most people live under is the illusion of security. They think the paycheck is their safety net, that if they just hold on to that job, work hard enough, stay loyal long enough, life will take care of them. But here's the truth. A paycheck is often a golden chain. It shines, it feels comfortable, but it keeps you tied down just the same. You trade your time, your creativity, and your potential for a small sense of certainty. It's like building a cage out of comfort, and the moment you get used to it, you stop growing. Now, don't misunderstand me. A job is not a bad thing. It's just not meant to be a permanent thing. It's your training ground, not your resting place. It's the classroom where you learn discipline, responsibility, and skill, but if you mistake the classroom for the destination, you'll live your whole life as a student, never a creator. The paycheck should be your tool for freedom, not your trap for survival. Use it to build independence, not dependency. When I was younger, I had a job that paid me just enough to get by, and I thought that was fine. Every week, I'd get my check, pay my bills, and start over again. I thought that was the cycle of life: earn, spend, repeat. But then I looked at the man signing my checks. He had time, he had choices, he had freedom. And that's when it hit me. While I was working for a living, he was building a life. I realized that as long as I depended on that paycheck, I'd never be in control of my own future. So I made a decision. I'd use my job to fund my freedom. Every paycheck became a seed. I started saving 20% of everything I earned, no matter how small. I treated that portion as sacred, untouchable. Then I took what I learned on the job and began creating something of my own. Maybe for you it's a side hustle, an investment, a small business, or developing a skill that can earn you income outside of the 9-to-5. The goal isn't to quit your job tomorrow, it's to build something that eventually makes the job optional. You've got to set a freedom date. Circle it on the calendar, a day when your income from assets, skills, or ownership replaces your salary. It could take 3 years or 10, but that date gives your effort direction. It turns work into a mission instead of a routine. Because here's the truth. You can't find real security in a paycheck. True security comes from the ability to produce, to create, to lead, and to serve. When you depend on a paycheck, someone else owns your time. When you depend on your own value, you own your life. So don't let the paycheck trap you. Let it fund your freedom. Use it to buy your time back, because the moment you stop trading hours for survival, you start living for purpose. The secret that separates the wealthy from the weary is simple. The rich don't trade time for money. They trade systems for money. They build something once, a structure, a process, an asset, and then let it work for them over and over again. Most people, though, never make that shift. They keep working harder, adding more hours, thinking that's the path to freedom. But hours have limits. Systems do not. You see, if every dollar you earn requires your presence, you'll always be stuck at the mercy of the clock. You can't outwork the day. It only gives you 24 hours. The poor and the rich get the same time, but they use it differently. The poor sell their hours. The rich invest theirs. One day I asked myself, if I stop working today, does my income stop too? The answer was yes, and that was the problem. That's when I began building leverage. When I say leverage, I don't mean debt or manipulation. I mean the intelligent use of resources, time, tools, people, and ideas to multiply your effort. Think about this. A farmer plants seeds once, but harvests for months. An author writes a book once, but earns royalties for years. An investor makes one decision, and that decision pays him every quarter. That's leverage when your past work continues to serve your future. In my early years, I had to learn this lesson the hard way. I was working long hours, chasing the next paycheck, and I was tired. Then a mentor told me, "You're using your hands to do what your mind could do better." That hit me. I realized I could either keep sweating for dollars or I could start thinking for wealth. I began creating things that outlived my effort, systems, partnerships, and assets that worked when I didn't. I automated small tasks, built a team, and turned ideas into products that could travel without me. You might think, but I don't have the resources to build systems. That's the wrong question. The right question is, what can I automate, delegate, or create that multiplies my effort? Even if you're starting small, maybe it's using technology to handle simple tasks, or creating something once that continues to bring value, like a course, a digital product, or even a piece of content that attracts clients. It all adds up. The shift begins in your mind. You have to stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like an owner. The employee says, how can I do more? The owner says, how can I make more happen without me? One is labor, the other is leverage. When you start thinking like an owner, you stop chasing time and start multiplying it. The rich don't work harder than you. They've simply learned how to make what they create continue to create. That's the game. Don't just use your labor, use your leverage. Build something once that pays you forever, and that's when you begin to buy back your time and live with freedom. Let me tell you something that completely changes the way you look at money. One income is too close to none. The person who lives on a single paycheck, a single business, or a single client is walking a tightrope with no safety net. One change in the economy, one decision from your employer, one unexpected event, and the whole structure can crumble overnight. The wealthy understand this truth deeply. They don't rely on one stream of income. They build rivers. They diversify. When I was younger, I learned this lesson the hard way. For years, I worked one job, thinking that as long as I showed up, worked hard, and stayed loyal, I'd be fine. But the day came when the company downsized, and I realized how fragile that security really was. That moment was my wake-up call. I had built my entire life around one financial leg, and when that leg was kicked out, I fell. From then on, I made a decision. Never again would I rely on one source of income. The rich don't depend on luck or one paycheck. They build a portfolio of income streams, earned income, passive income, and portfolio income. Earned income is what you make from your active work, your job, your business, your daily grind. It's necessary, but it's temporary. Passive income is what comes in even when you're not working. Rent, royalties, dividends, or digital products that sell on their own. Portfolio income is your long-term growth, investments that appreciate and produce returns over time. The goal is to use your earned income to build the other two. Here's how it works in practice. Start with what you already know, your skills, your experience, your talent. Turn that into a product or service you can offer outside of your main job. Maybe you teach online, write, consult, design, or coach. That's your second stream, built from your own expertise. Then, as money comes in, don't rush to spend it. Reinvest it. Buy assets that pay you back, real estate, dividends, stocks, or small businesses. The first stream feeds your needs, the second builds momentum, and the third creates freedom. You don't have to start big. I began with small things, selling a product, earning a commission, saving my profits, and reinvesting them. Over time, those small streams became steady rivers. The magic happens when each stream starts feeding the others. Your active income funds investments, your investments create passive income, and your passive income frees up your time to create more value. That's when your money starts working harder than you do. The poor think in paychecks. The rich think in cash flow. Every dollar that comes in should either create another dollar or protect the ones you already have. Review your income streams every quarter. Ask yourself, which one is growing? Which one needs attention? Which one can I add next? That's how you keep the system alive and expanding. Remember this truth. Financial freedom isn't built on what you earn. It's built on what keeps earning after you stop. One income is survival. Multiple incomes are stability. And when those incomes start feeding each other, that's when you step into real wealth, the kind that buys you time, choice, and peace. There's a world of difference between working in a system and owning the system. Most people spend their lives keeping someone else's dream alive while slowly letting their own fade. The employee works to survive, the owner works to build, and that's where the great divide begins. The moment you shift your thinking from employment to ownership, everything about your future changes. Your attitude, your effort, your outcomes. You see, when you work for wages, your income stops the minute you do. But when you own, your wealth continues even when you rest. That's the power of ownership. It multiplies your time, your energy, and your results. The employee says, I work for money. The owner says, my money works for me. That mindset shift is where freedom begins. When I was younger, I used to think getting a good job was the dream. A steady paycheck, a title, a little security, that was the goal. But then I met people who didn't have jobs, yet lived with freedom and abundance. They weren't smarter than me, they weren't luckier than me, but they owned something, a business, a product, a system, a brand. They were working for themselves, not trading time for approval. That's when I realized, if you only work for money, you'll always work for someone who understands money better than you. The truth is, you don't have to own a massive company to think like an owner. Ownership begins in your mind long before it shows up in your portfolio. It's a way of seeing everything you touch, your work, your time, your ideas as potential assets. Owners don't ask, what will I earn this month? They ask, what will I build this year? They don't just show up to complete tasks. They show up to create value. Start small if you must. Take a small equity position in something you believe in, a business, a partnership, a startup, or even your own side project. It doesn't have to be grand, it just has to be yours. Build something that belongs to you, even if it's an idea or a piece of intellectual property. Maybe it's a book, a course, a design, or a product. Your ideas are your assets. Don't just sell them. Structure them, package them, own them. And here's the beautiful part. Once you start thinking like an owner, your behavior changes. You stop watching the clock and you start watching the results. You stop waiting for instructions and you start creating directions. You stop chasing wages and you start building wealth. You begin to see that the paycheck is just the training wheels for your potential. The real goal is equity, owning a piece of what you build. So, think like a partner, not a worker. Don't just trade hours, trade ideas, trade influence, trade ownership. Because the truth is, freedom doesn't come from employment, it comes from equity. Don't just help build someone else's dream, use what you learn to build your own. That's how the wealthy live. Not by working harder, but by owning smarter. Knowledge is the most portable, most durable, and most leveraged asset you can own. You can lose money, you can lose property, but what you know, the skills, insights, and wisdom you carry cannot be taken from you. Yet most people squander this treasure, working long hours for someone else while ignoring the value of what they already possess. The moment you realize that knowledge itself can be turned into income, your perspective changes, and so does your future. I remember when I first started sharing what I knew, it wasn't about making money immediately, it was about creating value. I would speak to small groups, write notes, and offer practical advice that helped people take steps in their lives and businesses. And slowly, what started as a way to give back began to pay back. Knowledge, when shared effectively, attracts opportunity, trust, and eventually revenue. That's because people will always pay for results, insight, and solutions, not simply for your time. The key is to package your experience in a way that others can easily consume and apply. Maybe it's teaching a course, writing a book, consulting for a business, or creating content that solves a problem. Your job is not to be busy, your job is to be valuable. Ask yourself, what do I know that someone else is willing to pay to learn or use? That answer is your income seed. In today's world, an online presence amplifies this opportunity like nothing else. Even small platforms, blogs, social media, or niche communities can turn your expertise into a global classroom. You don't need millions of followers. You need engaged learners who see the results your knowledge can produce. When you focus on outcomes rather than effort, people will gladly pay for your insight. Another important principle is to charge for results, not hours. A consultant who charges by the hour is trading time for money. That's still employment. A true knowledge entrepreneur charges for transformation, impact, and solutions. The more significant the problem you solve, the higher the value of what you offer. And the beautiful part is that once your knowledge is properly packaged, it can work for you 24/7. A book sells while you sleep, a course enrolls students while you travel, and a system distributes your insights automatically. So don't just accumulate knowledge, invest it. Turn your experience, skills, and insights into products, services, and systems that create income. The mind is a powerful asset. When leveraged correctly, it doesn't just earn a living, it builds a legacy. Start today, share what you know, package it, and charge for the results it creates. Knowledge, once activated, becomes a wealth engine far more sustainable than a paycheck ever could. The biggest barrier between a paycheck and true wealth is not a lack of opportunity, it's a mindset shaped by employment. Jobs train obedience, punctuality, and reliability, which are valuable skills, but they also cultivate a mental framework where security is valued over creativity, fear over action, and short-term reward over long-term vision. The rich, on the other hand, approach life differently. They think in terms of opportunity, leverage, and growth. They see failure as tuition, not tragedy, and they understand that risk, when managed, is the vehicle to freedom. I remember early in my life, working diligently for a company, following instructions, and earning a steady paycheck. I was good at it, disciplined, reliable, and compliant. Yet deep down I felt a tension. I realized that no matter how hard I worked, my income had a ceiling, and my freedom had limits. The transformation didn't come when I got smarter about saving, it came when I began to think differently. I began to treat money as a tool, not a goal, ideas as currency, not idle thoughts, and setbacks as lessons, not defeats. That shift in mindset unlocked opportunities that a traditional worker's approach would have never allowed. Reprogramming your thinking begins with exposure. Surround yourself with people who see possibilities where you see problems, entrepreneurs, investors, and creators. Observe how they evaluate opportunities, manage risk, and approach setbacks. Notice the difference in how they respond to uncertainty. And don't just observe, emulate. The mind grows by what it feeds, and your environment shapes your thinking far more than your intentions alone. Reading and study also accelerate this mental shift. One book a month on wealth, psychology, negotiation, or personal growth compounds in ways that a job can never replicate. You absorb strategies, frameworks, and stories that expand your perception of what is possible. Every new idea adds a mental tool that prepares you for real-world wealth creation. Finally, treat setbacks as tuition, not tragedy. Every misstep teaches you more about markets, people, and yourself. Those who fear failure never advance. Those who embrace it strategically multiply their lessons and refine their approach. You start to see obstacles not as walls, but as stepping stones. Shift your mindset from worker to wealth builder. Think creatively, take calculated risks, learn relentlessly, and treat failure as education. The journey from paycheck to prosperity begins in the mind. Today, begin cultivating your mental framework for wealth and watch the world open to your vision. If you want to move from earning a paycheck to creating wealth, one of the most powerful shifts you can make is in how you approach people. The poor look for someone to hire them, someone to approve their worth, someone to dictate their opportunity. The rich, however, see people differently. They see collaborators, partners, and networks. They understand that relationships are the real currency of wealth and that money follows connection just as surely as it follows value. Early in my career, I realized that no matter how skilled I became, my growth was limited by the circles I moved in. I was diligent, I learned quickly, and I delivered results, yet my opportunities expanded only when I connected with people who were already where I wanted to go. I began to attend every event I could, meet everyone I could, and offer help wherever I could. The principle was simple: give before you get. If I helped someone succeed, that energy always came back in some form. It could be a new opportunity, advice, or a partnership. Relationships multiply your reach in ways money alone never can. Building networks starts with presence. Attend business events, conferences, or mastermind groups regularly. Don't just collect business cards. Engage in meaningful conversations. Ask about people's goals, listen to their challenges, and offer your perspective or assistance. Generosity in relationships isn't just polite, it's strategic. When you give value without immediate expectation, you establish trust, credibility, and influence. That's the foundation of lasting wealth. Next, keep your connections alive. A network is not a static list, it's a living, breathing ecosystem. Keep a contact list, follow up monthly, and make your outreach meaningful. Share insights, congratulate achievements, or offer solutions. Consistency builds familiarity, and familiarity builds trust. People invest in those they trust, and trust is the cornerstone of collaboration. Remember, your network is not just who you know, but who knows you and believes in your capabilities. By thinking in terms of collaboration rather than hierarchy, you open doors that a traditional employee mindset never sees. Opportunities, capital, and partnerships begin to appear naturally when you cultivate relationships intentionally. Shift your focus from bosses to networks. Invest in people as much as in assets. Give generously, follow consistently, and watch as connections turn into opportunities and influence turns into wealth. Relationships, when nurtured thoughtfully, will carry you far beyond what a paycheck ever could. The steady paycheck is seductive. It whispers security, stability, and predictability. Most people cling to it because it covers today's needs and silences uncertainty. But here's the hard truth. Comfort is the enemy of growth. The paycheck mindset keeps ambition small, limits vision, and trains you to exchange your life for money rather than using money to create freedom. The rich don't hate stability. They use it strategically. They see a paycheck not as a destination, but as a launch pad to build something far bigger than themselves. I remember when I first realized this. Early in my career, I had a decent job. The hours were predictable, the income steady, and I could pay my bills without stress. On the surface, it felt like success, but inside, I felt boxed in, limited, and restless. I realized that comfort was a trap. The money was steady, but my life and potential were stagnating. That's when I made the choice to treat my paycheck differently, not as income to consume, but as capital to invest in myself and my future. I saved raises instead of spending them. I studied business operations, learned how value was created, and began to apply those lessons outside my job. I used my role as a learning ground, a place to observe systems, leadership, and market dynamics. The key is to trade short-term comfort for long-term freedom. Every raise, every bonus, every hour worked should be leveraged to increase your independence. Don't fall into the trap of lifestyle inflation. Avoid letting your expenses rise with every paycheck. Instead, use those extra funds to invest, learn, or create assets that pay when you're not working. Learn how businesses operate from the inside, not just to climb the corporate ladder, but to understand the mechanics of creating wealth. Observe decision-making, study operational efficiency, and ask yourself how you can replicate or improve upon it in your ventures. Ultimately, you must recognize when the job has become a cage rather than a launch pad. When your vision requires more than your current position allows, it's time to act. Whether it's starting your own venture, investing, or leveraging skills into new opportunities, leave when growth demands it. Stability is useful, but ambition is priceless. Use your paycheck wisely. Let it fund freedom, not stagnation. Step beyond comfort and embrace the challenge of creating wealth on your terms. Most people treat money like it's meant to be spent immediately. A reward for work, a ticket to comfort, a symbol of status. They buy cars that depreciate, clothes that go out of fashion, gadgets that lose value the moment they leave the store. But the wealthy think differently. They understand that every financial decision is either buying freedom or buying bondage. Every dollar can either work for you, multiplying and creating more opportunities, or it can vanish in the illusion of comfort. The sooner you adopt an asset mindset, the sooner you free yourself from the cycle of working for money alone. Early in my journey, I watched friends receive bonuses or tax refunds and spend them as if tomorrow didn't exist. I did the opposite. I realized that if I reinvested even half of my extra income into assets, skill building, business ventures, or appreciating investments, I could accelerate my freedom exponentially. I treated every dollar like a soldier. Either it works for me in the battlefield of wealth creation, or it rests useless in my wallet. That discipline allowed me to compound results over time, turning small wins into life-changing gains. The strategy is simple but rarely practiced. First, invest in skill building rather than status symbols. Skills are assets that increase your earning potential. Courses, mentorship, and even practical experience are investments that never depreciate. Every new skill learned, every new competency mastered, increases the value you bring to the marketplace. That value becomes a source of leverage, and leverage multiplies income. Second, treat windfalls differently. Bonuses, tax refunds, gifts. These are opportunities to boost your asset base, not to inflate your lifestyle. Reinvest at least half of these windfalls into income-generating assets, whether that's a stock, a side business, or tools that enhance your productivity. Doing this consistently compounds your wealth faster than waiting for large sums to appear. Finally, measure what matters. Track your net worth monthly. Monitor your assets, liabilities, and cash flow. Measurement brings awareness, and awareness creates accountability. When you see your assets growing, you reinforce the behavior. When they shrink, you correct it before it becomes a crisis. Remember, an asset mindset isn't just about money. It's about thinking long-term, prioritizing growth over gratification, and letting your resources work for you. Build assets first, and your lifestyle will follow naturally. Make freedom the goal, not things, and your financial life will change forever. Most people measure success by what they can earn in a day, a month, or even a year. They chase income that stops the moment they stop working. But true wealth is far bigger than that. True wealth is what continues to create value long after you've stepped aside, long after your personal effort has paused. It's the system that works for you, your family, and your legacy, even when you're not there to manage it. This is the mindset that separates the wealthy from the rest. Early in my own journey, I realized that my time and energy were limited. I could only work so many hours, but I wanted results that would last decades. So, I shifted my thinking. Instead of trading time for money, I began building systems that could operate independently. I started documenting every process in my ventures, breaking down tasks so others could replicate them. I trained team members not just to follow instructions, but to lead, decide, and innovate in ways that aligned with the overall vision. The difference was profound. What once required my daily presence now produced results even when I stepped away. The philosophy is simple but powerful. Wealth that depends solely on your labor is temporary. Wealth that depends on systems is enduring. That's why the rich focus not only on assets, but also on the frameworks that multiply their effectiveness. Whether it's a business that generates consistent profit, a property portfolio that accrues value, or intellectual property that earns royalties, the key is to design something that doesn't stop when you stop. The strategy requires intentional action. Document every process in your business or project. Don't leave knowledge in your head. Capture it so it can be repeated, scaled, and improved. Next, invest in people. Train others to take responsibility, make decisions, and lead without your constant supervision. This builds trust and multiplies your impact exponentially. Finally, focus on generational assets. Property, royalties, digital content, patents, and investments that pass from one generation to the next are far more valuable than anything that disappears when you do. This is the mindset of enduring success. By building systems that outlive you, you are no longer confined by the limits of your own time or effort. You are creating a legacy of wealth, influence, and freedom that continues to grow and serve even when you are gone. Design your life this way, and you won't just accumulate wealth, you will multiply it perpetually. Wealth that outlives you is the truest form of freedom. Start building it today. Too many people think life is a competition for limited resources, a race to beat someone else to get more than the next person. But that mindset keeps you small, stuck in scarcity. The truth is, wealth and influence grow exponentially when you focus on contribution instead of competition. When you create value for others, when you solve problems that others avoid, you expand the pie rather than fighting for crumbs. Early in my career, I learned this firsthand. I noticed people around me competing for the same opportunities, the same clients, the same deals. They focused on winning over someone else, and while they worked harder, they rarely moved forward meaningfully. I made a conscious choice to focus on contribution. I asked myself, how can I help more people succeed? How can I create something that lifts others while also building my own path? That shift changed everything. Doors opened, partnerships formed, and my work began multiplying in ways I couldn't have achieved through competition alone. The philosophy here is simple. Contribution creates abundance. When you dedicate yourself to solving problems, educating, mentoring, and providing solutions that matter, you attract opportunities that weren't visible before. People naturally want to invest in, collaborate with, and support those who make a positive difference. Wealth and success aren't zero-sum, they are multiplied by the value you bring to others. The strategy requires deliberate action. First, focus on problems others avoid. Don't chase the easy path where everyone else is. Instead, identify where needs are unmet and courageously step in. Second, share knowledge freely. Teach, mentor, write, or speak. Influence grows when you give first, and returns often follow. Third, build ventures, products, and services that improve lives. When your work genuinely enhances others' well-being, your own prosperity is a natural byproduct. This mindset isn't about charity for its own sake. It's about creating systems of mutual benefit. Contribution becomes leverage. The more you give, the more trust, respect, and opportunity you attract. By lifting others, you create an environment where wealth and influence grow, not just for you, but for everyone connected to your vision. Shift your focus from competition to contribution, and watch how opportunities multiply beyond what you ever imagined. Build wealth by serving, and your success becomes inevitable. As we come to the close of our time together today, I want you to pause for a moment and really let this sink in. What I've shared with you isn't just a collection of tips or abstract ideas. It is a philosophy, a framework, a way of life that separates those who drift from those who create. The rich, the truly wealthy, are not simply people who earn more. They are people who think differently, act differently, and live differently. They leverage their time, their knowledge, their relationships, and their mindset to create lives of freedom and impact. And you can do the same, starting today. Think about your own life for a moment. How often have you allowed circumstances, comfort, or fear to dictate your actions? How often have you waited for the perfect moment to start a project, invest, or pursue a dream? Let me tell you something I know from experience. The perfect moment never comes. Opportunity rewards action, not hesitation.